Nuno felt, adding a design or embellishment with wool. This is what we're aiming for. Lots of puckering from the cotton fabric and clear design on both sides of the fabric. I tried this at first. It kind of worked on the right side, but not on the wrong side. The wool didn't come through. These are my tools and the fibres, and there's more information below about those. You want some fabric that you can see through, breathe through. That's how you know it'll be sufficient for the wool to go through. So this time, instead of using raw wool, I have used pre-felt. That should work, shouldn't it? Well, maybe it would if I treated it properly. Now, some people say you can't use too much soap. I discovered, yes, you can use too much soap. And if you do use too much soap and too much water, the wool fibres will just slide past each other. They might felt, but they probably won't go through the fabric, which is what we want them to do for this exercise. Did I mention that this is all about me making mistakes so you don't have to? So see, it hasn't come through on the wrong side at all. So I got my trusty rolling pin out and decided to try and push that fibre through. And maybe at this point for some of that fibre, it was too late already. It had already started to felt just sitting on top, and it would have peeled off. But I'm trying. I gave it a good massage, and there's the wrong side, see? Hardly any of it's come through. When you get to the end, compare that with what it was at the end. So would it be better if I added lots of boiling water? I thought it might. We're supposed to heat it up as we go. Well, maybe not so much with this Nuno felt. We actually need to go slower. So I tried to roll it as I should have, and I'm using a tea towel. Not a bad thing. It's just a small piece of work. Tea towel is fine. Useful even. And tried dropping it. And look what happened to the design. A whole lot of it has just disappeared. A whole lot of those little yellow centres on the flowers have just walked out the door. Oh, would you please subscribe to my channel? I would love it if you did. So now, this is about fixing my mistakes and learning from my errors. I make the mistakes so you don't have to. So I have added more wool. I'm going to use the same piece. I'm not starting again. I've added more wool to it. Now this time I'm going for a completely different approach. I am going for mindfulness. Mindfulness and slowness and deliberate. That's the plan. So I know that the most important thing here is to be somehow pushing the wool fibre through the black muslin. And I know that I have to do this very, very gently. I've added enough wool on top of everything that there's now sufficient to hold down what was underneath if that wasn't felted properly. Hope that makes sense. And I wanted to show this to you in real time as well, so that you can see just how hard or gently I touch the fabric. I check all of the time under the net to see whether the wool is felting to the net. Quite often the wool will felt to the net when it hasn't felted to the fabric at all, but the net's well and truly stuck on, and we don't want to get to that. So thinking about this idea of pushing it through, I've taken my trusty little roller, back massager, whatever we want to call it, and I'm using that. And I love this because it shows, compared to earlier, you can see that now I have some soap there. There's some soapy water I used, but it's not nearly as much as it was before. And I'm also taking care to soak up any extra water. So the work is wet, but it's not sloppy. It's not oozing water out of every end of it. I'm working on a towel with bubble wrap on top, and then I have rolled up the piece. I'm also trying to do some other tips that I have learned, such as leaning quite heavily and doing my rolling starting from the palm of my hand going up to the elbow, and also working from outside edges of the rolling pin to inside. And you can do this with a really small piece, because being small means that you can effectively roll the whole thing at once. You don't even really have to roll it up because it's such a small piece. You can just roll on top of it like this. So I'm still mindful of wanting to push those fibers through. Will I succeed? You have to stay to the end to find that out. See how the wool kind of goes flat and seems to get bigger and fatter? I find that interesting because the fact of it is that the wool is what will shrink and the fabric won't shrink. And so that ends up with this really beautiful ruched effect that I showed you on the old shawl. So now we're employing the magic of bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is just great. And those bubbles will hold quite a lot of the water and soap and hold it evenly. And also almost like little suckers. So already that is starting to come through on the wrong side. It's vastly improved. And again, I'm doing this openly so that you can see what I'm doing. Remember, this is what I'm aiming for. Really clear design, but lots of that ruching. And I didn't get it that first day. I was getting there, but still not quite. So the next day, I decided to give it another go to see if I could get it to felt as I wanted it to. It's not far away. So I'm using the magical olive oil soap, which I'm coming to love. It's so much better on your hands and it's a different pH level. I've also learnt from other felt makers how they do it. So rather than pouring vast quantities of soap on, they just put the soap on their hands. And they also put the soap on the plastic first. That really helps. I'm still learning, but still rolling. So instead of having a rolled up parcel and coming at it from each angle, I'm doing it this way. So rolling it lots of times, you can decide how many times you want to roll it, and making sure that regularly you turn it over so that you are dealing with both sides. And being conscious of looking for where it hasn't come through. So occasionally you'll see I'll give one little bit a bit more attention because I know that there's lots of lovely wool on the other side of it. You can see, can't you, how important it was. I should have had much more of a border around the edge of this. I won't make that mistake again. Now this might look like it's too much soap, but it really is very little compared to the disaster I had in the beginning when it looked like I was opening a bubble bath factory. So just like we do with other felting, I've turned it and going to do the rolling from a different direction. And it's quite safe to do this in the open now because remember, I've been working on this for a couple of days. This is like day 2. Not that I'm claiming to have worked on it all day yesterday. I didn't. I'm also trying to be mindful of working with my hands from the outside of the foam roller to the inside. And we turn it again. Now, if this was a normal wet felted piece, it would all be rolled up, but I would still be doing this, making sure that I roll it from each direction. Every now and then you'll see me working with the edge of it, because as it starts to felt, it pulls in. And you can be encouraged to give it a little stretch out. Don't let it felt in too fast. Stretch it out. Keep it as square as you can. You can see on the far side of this a little piece where I had a bit of green wool that stuck over the edge, and it just went over the edge and latched the other side and hooked on. Now this is hot. You can tell by the way I'm holding it. Yeah, it's pretty hot. So I've given this a good rinse in the hot water. Really hot, really cold, shocks the wool and makes it shrink. So this is now starting to look much better. I can see straight away that the wool has shrunk. And as it shrinks, it's bringing the fabric along with it. And this was the effect I was after. And it's really hard, isn't it, to think of how you can make a design that is going to make the fabric shrink evenly. You can end up with a really warped piece if all of the wool is in one direction only. So part of the challenge when you're designing a piece like this is to make sure that the wool is over the piece evenly, so that's going to shrink from all four directions. More rinsing. When you get to the point where you want to stop, you can even add a little bit of vinegar if you want to. Now, any movement here at all is going to help this to shrink. It's such a light piece that it's impossible not to be gentle with it. But any sort of movement, it is shrinking before your eyes, and look how much of it has now come through to the other side. I'm really feeling quite happy with that. So when you start doing this exercise where you are just giving it a good pull out to sort of resist that stretching, because when the wool is totally felted, it's not going to pull out, but the fabric might a bit. But if you're using really fine fabric, like this sort of muslin or silk, just be careful, because if you use, like you can see I'm using all my fingers together like that, but if I was to just use like a pincer movement with two fingers, it could easily rip. The fabric could rip. The wool's not going to rip, but the fabric might. Another reason to have a good border around your work. And although this design is really quite strange and weird, I do like it. And there it is on the other side. But I'm still not done yet. This time I want to make sure that I do everything I can to finish this work properly. So when we talk about fulling the work, I think that's pretty much where we're up to now. We're going to full this piece of felt. So rolling a piece of work like that in a towel or a tea towel works really well. And you see now, instead of having the artwork on the inside, I've got the artwork on the outside. And there it is. It's done. And there it is on the wrong side. That's what I was aiming for. And there it is finished. Could you see how much the wool has shrunk and the fabric hasn't? So you get all this interesting little pleating. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon, because I'm going to try another one of these very soon. See if I can get it right from the beginning. Please let me know if this has helped you, and also let me know if you have any questions. Really happy to answer your questions if I can.